stay up all night, just
Yeah, I
nonchalantly
know.
talking.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Ooh, that's gonna be.
Boom. All right, ready? Hello, 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 everyone. I'm your host, Aaron Allegory, and this is another episode of Hungry, the podcast for creatives on the come up by creatives on the come up. And I'm happy to introduce our lovely guest today, Rex.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thank you
Yeah,
for having me.
yeah, nice to meet you too. Sometimes I get a little bit of an intro for all the listeners out there. I get a little bit of a background before I interview the guest, but this is basically right, fresh meat, fresh meat.
Yeah,
This is great. So can you tell the audience a little background about yourself or like what you do?
yeah. So I'm right now. I work in like data science. I work for a healthcare company, managing all their data stuff.
Okay.
Before that, I was a mathematician.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay. So that's how you and one of our other guests, JV, are connected. Math.
yeah. We're both math nerds.
Yeah.
But as he mentioned in his part, math is probably, not my opinion, one of the most creative things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's taught me so much about like just how much problem solving really develops like your creative skills.
Yeah. Literally
I
problem solving.
I mean they say necessity is the mother of invention, but
Hmm.
I've there have been times where I've been working on math problems in school and I'll immediately have an idea for like, oh, I should draw this thing,
Yeah.
and it'll be that like little break I have that just helps so much.
And just like problem solving in general has definitely helped me with art. So I feel you on that because it's just working out ways to solve a problem based on what you already know.
Yeah, and especially for me when I try to like create stuff, I feel like the less limitations I have, the harder it is for me to actually make a decision.
Yeah, sometimes I feel you. If it's not like an overwhelming rush of like I have to create this one thing, sometimes the lack of specificity or the lack of direction can just like leave you lost.
Yeah, you're just like staring out into the universe and you're trying to figure out something,
Yeah.
and being in that box and like being like, okay, I got to escape it. It's it stirs that creativity,
Yeah.
especially for me.
Yeah. So what are some of these things that you've created?
I do a lot of drawings.
Yeah.
Big fan of drawings. I like doing. My main thing is doing cartoon animals. I love cartoons.
I can dig it. I can dig it.
Also, bass player. Love playing
Yeah,
bass.
bet another bass player. I play the
Oh,
bass.
that's awesome.
I love it. It's such a good instrument. It feels so natural.
Yeah,
It feels so natural.
it feels so good. It just feels right. I don't know. There's something about bass and drums for me, like the
Yeah.
instruments that make you want to move. Like that's to me, that's the essence of music.
Yeah.
Wanting to dance and like move your body and just the feeling that gives you.
Yeah. Like I've tried a lot of instruments. Like even I own a lot of instruments. I have a keyboard. I have a couple keyboards. I have a semi-acoustic guitar, PRS. I have a bass. I have a trumpet now. I have a
Cool.
saxophone. I have a ukulele. I think that might be it. I started with the clarinet.
Damn.
It's still at my grandma's house, but
Yeah, I'm jealous. I started out on piano, then I ended up getting these giant hands. I tried to play guitar, and my friends are always like, "Yeah, you can play guitar," and I'm like, "I literally cannot." I
yeah,
I like try, and it's just I can't fret one note. I'll hit another string, and it's just like let me stay to bass. It's my
yeah.
specialty.
I mean, like I feel like if you really try hard, anyone can play an instrument, but there are definitely some genetic things that make it easier. Like
For
sausage fingers and fretting just
it
don't
does
go well
it
together.
doesn't work,
They just don't go well.
and it doesn't feel right too. And
Yeah,
for me, everything should just like like when you're creating something, it should feel right. Even
yeah,
when like we talked about like constraints, even then it still feels right. It feels like okay, I'm doing something creative here. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
So, what is something that you struggled with along your creative journey, and how did you overcome it?
I'd say the main thing for me is trying to understand the difference between being technically good and being good. Like there's a difference between the two. Like something can be in theory technically good, but like in music, something there's a lot of jazz music I like that's technically amazing.
Hmm.
Nobody wants to listen to it. At the end of the day, nobody wants to listen to it.
Yeah,
And the most important thing I feel like in music and in art sometimes is being heard, like and having other people enjoy what you make. Cuz
yeah.
Yeah, and like that's been the main thing I've been struggling with and trying to overcome. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
just because something's technically good doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah. Or honestly, I feel like that plays a big part in being an artist in general because you can be technically good at your art, but if you're not good at relaying yourself as an artist, if you don't network and put yourself out there,
Oh,
you're not are you really a good artist if no one hears or watches what you do?
exactly. Yeah,
Like,
if nobody's listening, who
yeah, are
who
you
cares?
yeah, exactly. You can make the best music in the world if no one hears it. Are you a good artist?
Yeah, it's and like especially in the music world, I feel like I see this with guitar players a lot. They get obsessed with like technical aspects of like how to play and like being technically the best, and it's like but they don't understand their own voice and they don't
Yeah.
understand what feels good to them and what how to express themselves.
Yeah. Honestly, I've run into a lot of guitar players where I just gotta like I'll meet them because like the guitar is such a like it's one of the most common instruments that people pick up, especially because you can take an acoustic and you can go play it anywhere,
Hmm.
right? But and people fall in love with it, and people like John Mayer, they it's very easy to fall in love with. You watch somebody play it, you're like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, this is so good. And I've run into guitar players, and I've just had to like tell them to like be a little bit more patient. I'm like, I like your passion for music. I just think you need to evolve a little bit more. Like I've had to have that conversation with people, and it's hard to have that conversation with an artist
yeah.
because like or with a lot of people in their craft because like people want to be
Anybody and anything, to
yeah
be honest.
they want to be at their destination. They want to be like respected all the time, every day
Yeah,
for everything.
I don't know. Personally, like I couldn't care about the respect. I just want like it's the journey for me. I love things I'm terrible at. That's just
Yeah,
a personal thing. I love the struggle and like trying to overcome like
yeah.
not being good at something and like learning how to be good at it is fun for me. Like being good, like once I get to that point where it's like, oh, I'm good. I'm like, I don't care anymore. It's not fun anymore, and it's
Okay,
not enjoyable. But
you're all about the climb.
yeah,
All right. So what is some advice that you would give to your younger self?
I mean, the main advice I'd give to my younger self is honestly knowing my life and like how I've kind of come to terms with things. Just you're gonna figure it out. Like that's the main thing. Like a piece of
Okay.
advice I'd give to myself. Like trust yourself, but listen to other people.
Yeah, that's always it's a balancing act because like you have to trust your gut, and your gut is right most of the time,
Hmm.
but you also can't get too high on your own supply and not be able to take constructive criticism or just input.
Yeah,
You know,
it's the ego thing where it's like listen to other people, but at the end of the day, make your own decisions.
exactly.
But acknowledge their decision, like acknowledge what other people are saying to you, and like actually listen to it.
Yeah,
I think that would be the main thing. Like really acknowledge what other people tell you, but still make your own decisions.
yeah. Depending on their qualifications in the
Yes,
situation,
exactly.
because I've definitely had some people try to give me advice that didn't know what they was talking about at all.
or they try to give you advice, and you're like, listen, I don't want to be the guy who's like, don't
Yeah,
throw stones in a glass house, but
yeah, exactly. Or I've had people like try to advise me on like how to use my money, but like they complain about their electric bill, and I'm like,
sometimes I do take their advice because I'm like, hey, they know exactly
yeah, I'm
they
like,
know exactly what's wrong with them right now.
yeah,
It's like, listen,
exactly. That's my thing. I guess I try to take advice from people that are doing what I want to be doing or living how I want to live. I don't
yeah,
like. I get that like the mistakes teach you lessons, and you want to help people not make those mistakes. But if you haven't corrected those mistakes, I'm not checking in.
no, I agree with that. I do also like just listening to other people and seeing like, okay, let me like follow their logic too. Like, 'cause even
Hmm.
if they're not right, it's like, let's see like how they're getting there and like
Yeah.
why they're getting there.
You sound like a proof person, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the math stuff coming
Yeah.
back where it's like, let's check their work and stuff. But yeah.
So we talked about struggle, and this is hungry, so we gotta get into the food. So what is either the worst struggle meal that you've had or the grossest meal that you've had? I'll let you pick your poison.
Oh man. I honestly, there have been a couple where I've been on a couple mission trips. Like we used to go for our church group. We used to go down to West Virginia and help fix up people's houses down there.
Okay.
And there was this one cafeteria we ate at, and they just had some of the worst food I've ever had. Have you ever had have you ever had green beans, like boiled green beans that are gray?
No, thankfully.
Yeah,
You're like that just doesn't sound right.
yeah. There's like where you look at it and you're like, oh, this is the only thing I'm gonna be eating for the rest of the day, and I've been out working for all hours of the day.
Yeah, it's like what are those? That's like the freaking pretty patties from SpongeBob. It's just like gray goop. They just shaped to look like the food.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the worst one I've had. I mean, like for pure struggle wise, I think just like there have been certain things like I'd call meals. Like I'd say like working at the West Virginia gym, like 'cause I used to go to school there, was like big for me. Like I'd say that was my biggest like hunger moment because I was just not doing well there. Didn't like being at school there. Just whole bunch of stuff like not doing well, and that was like my one like escape type
Okay,
thing.
yeah.
Where it was like this is like the thing that like feeds like my hunger and
Mhm.
like my hatred, anger, all that negative emotion. Like it
Oh,
gets
yeah.
rid of that and like calms that type stuff.
I feel you. I feel like that's probably why you like the process so much, because it's literally like a flow, like natural growth state and like overcoming.
Yeah, for sure. I'm one of those big people who's just like, all right, what can I do next? What's next?
Oh yeah. Literally, honestly, I was in the gym earlier today, and I like took a picture, which was good for me because if you had seen me when I was in middle school or like my freshman year of high school, I looked completely different. Well, not my face was the same, my body was very different. So me going to the gym, every time I do, I remember the days when I was obese, and I'm like sticking it. I'm sticking it to all the people that made fun of me back then. I remember. I never forgot shit.
Yeah, no, and that stuff reminds you. You're like,
Yeah.
especially when you. I remember because I was always like super skinny, like just. I still am. I stopped working out and I probably lost about 30 pounds just from like life and stuff. But I remember like the first time I like started gaining some muscle and I was like looking at myself in the mirror and like I took that one picture and you're
Yeah.
like,
It's nice
oh
to have some pride
yeah, and
in
like
something you've done. That's why I forget. It was Aristotle that said every person should master their body. And it's like one of the purest forms of being able to see what your work really does because you can look in the mirror and physically see your progress.
and like every day it's just a physical representation of the positive changes you're making.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I'm so glad that you came on the podcast.
yeah, dude, it was great meeting you.
Yeah. Well, this has been another episode of Hungry. This has been the podcast for creatives on the come up, by creatives on the come up. We hope that you took some lessons from today's podcast, and we hope to see you next time. I hope you have a good day. Peace.
Great.
You guys have really good chemistry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude, you're
sweet.
awesome.